Hi everyone, it's day 2 here in North Carolina where I'm staying with Maya, and in this video I'm going to be answering the question of when did I discover my spirit guides and what is my perspective on spirit guides now. Okay, when I first discovered my spirit guides, I would believe I was about 10 years old when I really started to interact with these beings. I feel before that I've always had this presence of this energy around me, but I didn't really fully have the concept of spirit guides and communicating with them, like interacting with them, because when I was 10 years old, that's when I received just this huge, eye-opening when I started to see my deceased father in the mirror. Okay, I really stepped into my mediumship when I was about 10 years old, and right now, currently, I don't step into my mediumship ability. Long story short, when I was 10 years old, and when I opened the door to the spirit realm by seeing my father in the mirror, I actually opened the door to seeing all kinds of earthbound spirits. And I found that earthbound spirits were almost like they were two-dimensional. Like they almost seemed heavier than humans in the third-dimensional reality. It seemed like they were a layer down than us. And I feel like these earthbound spirits, they were having their own little world, simultaneously as we're having our world above their world, okay? And that when I was young, I had this gift, almost like this pair of eyes that could see into their world. And when I saw that world, I saw a lot of that world was people kind of like Earth, very similar to the third-dimensional human beings, and there were people that I discovered that were literally creating their worst nightmare. Okay, they were stuck. Almost seemed like they were more stuck than a lot of third-dimensional beings. Like there was a lot of stuck energy, and it was a very depressing energy for me. So I had to kind of just say, I'm not so sure I want this mediumship ability spirit guides, because it's kind of melancholy for me, and it doesn't elevate me whatsoever, because with that, when I was 10 years old, I didn't understand the clearing process. So I was receiving all these messages from all of these earthbound spirits about their families, and I was receiving earthbound spirits from people like who were speaking Spanish to me, people who were speaking like Native American language to me, and people that were speaking African to me. I'm talking about, I was receiving like all of time earthbound spirits, not just earthbound spirits that were recently passed. I'm talking about earthbound spirits that maybe were like 2,000 years ago in Earth time, like in the age of Lemurian Atlantis. And even I've received some like Egyptian people too. And the suffering, I couldn't take the suffering because I couldn't clear. So I kept accumulating, and not clearing, and then it created this very imbalanced vibration in me. Okay, and then it started affecting with my eating, okay, with my digestive system, because I remember at that time I started having like a weird digestive system because I feel like I wasn't clearing, okay, all of this energy. So, and it also started affecting my mental ability, meaning I started to go to school and I started to check out of school. Like I would just be there for 8 hours and I wouldn't remember a thing, because I feel like I was always energetically in the earthbound spirit realm, that even when I was in the third dimensional earth, this reality, it was like my energy field was there doing work for these earthbound spirits, helping them to get unstuck, to move on. And a lot of these earthbound spirits were very desperate to move on, very, very desperate to move on, but they just had this stuck energy and they just couldn't. They just couldn't, because they couldn't forgive and they couldn't forget. And that created this cycle. Because they kept thinking over and over again, the injustice, the injustice, the injustice, the injustice, and that created this wheel. This injustice, this injustice. And I was 10 years old, and I didn't really understand concepts of forgiveness or forgetfulness, because for myself, I didn't really have forgiveness for my father, okay, and the things that transpired after his death that really created like a huge rift in my life, in my mother's life, particularly my mother's life. So, with that being said, okay, that was a little background about my mediumship ability and how that really ties into when I first came in, met my spirit guides, okay. I was always having, like I said, this interaction, especially when I started getting a mediumship ability, especially when I started seeing my father. I started seeing other beings. Okay, when I was in the earthbound realm, when I was receiving all of these spirits, I also received few of very high vibrational beings, very high, very, very high. And I feel like they were very much helping me to really understand what's going on with me. Okay, to really help me understand, this 10-year-old girl. And I started to receive very almost earthbound spirits that were in this cycle of just hate for themselves, and then hate for other people, hate for this world, because they really just, they couldn't let things go. They couldn't forgive, forget, so they had this hate energy, this hate. Okay, because when they died with a really strong ego of hate. I hate what the world did to me. I hate what he did to me or she did to me. I hate myself for doing that to that person. And that was heavy for me. So these spirit guides, okay, I started to get names for them. I feel like when I was about, I feel like I was getting names when I was about like 11 or 12. But at the time, it wasn't ready for me to really fully step into my gifts, because my spirit guides wanted me to go on the path of kind of experiencing the average sort of childhood, okay? Because remember, I was born 1995. I'm more energetically in alignment with the kids that are born today, okay? Not with the kids born in 1995. Energetically, I'm in line with babies, okay? That's why I have so much resonance with babies. So they wanted me to live this kind of average childhood, okay? So about from age 12 to 16, 17, I had this sort of average sort of childhood, with participating and just, parties and having friends and going to the beach, not really thinking about spirituality, not really thinking about metaphysics, not really thinking about how I could serve the planet, not really thinking about the things I experienced when I was 10, about the mediumship. It kind of just, I was just completely focused on the moment-to-moment interaction with my friends. Really what my spirit guides wanted me to have a really good sense of socializing skills, which is really important for now, because I have excellent Gemini socializing skills because of that period when I was just had all these friends and I was just interacting like all the time. At school I was just interacting, because my spirit guides knew that when I was 10 years old and I was, all this earthbound spirit stuff, I was just very non-sociable in school, because I felt like really overwhelmed by presence of people. So when I was with people, I was like, I don't want to be around people, because I'm around people every single second of the day. When I'm sleeping, when I'm eating, when I'm taking a walk, I feel them everywhere. So that they helped me to kind of dormant that ability of mediumship, so I wouldn't feel overwhelmed, so I could really just focus on humans, human friends. So that was really a blessing, because the earthbound spirits were just very, very aggressive about wanting to move on, and at the same time, they were just this stuck energy, like very resistant, very resistant. It's like they want to move on, and they're open to the tools, and they're open to, my energy help assist them, even though I didn't know what I was doing when I was 10 years old, but evidently my energy, my soul knew exactly what to do, but my mind had no concept of what my soul was doing. So I feel like I did assist many souls to cross over while I was sleeping, while I was just always in school and I was just like checked out. I don't even remember a lot of class when I was like from like 10 or like maybe 9 to 12. I don't remember much of anything because I was always like checked out because my higher self like would leave my body, and there would be like an aspect of me here, but not completely here, not completely present, because my soul was working with these earthbound spirits to get them to stop resisting the truth that you need to forgive and you need to forget. Okay, that is the key to your salvation. So, with that in mind, I started getting names for spirit guides, and I don't remember the names because my perspective on spirit guides has changed so much since then, but my spirit guides very, very much presented themselves to me as like humans, but very, very like Jesus sort of frequency humans, like very much like these angelic beings that didn't look like a man or a female. They looked like both, a man and a woman, like this perfect yin-yang. If a yin-yang could be in a human form, that is what they looked like, a complete harmonious balance within the self. And they were angels, and I remember they kept telling me that I was an archangel. They kept telling me that I was one of them. They kept saying that all the time, like I was one of them, and then I volunteered to come here. I was one of the frequencies, a part of the angelic realm frequency that came here to volunteer to be an anchoring rod for the vibration of the angels. Like I am the anchoring rod of angels. So, and at the time I didn't really understand any of that until like later when I was in my late teens. And I started getting names, and I started to really work with Archangel Michael, especially when I started to kind of have these sort of earthbound spirits and presence of the world's fear manifested as like a paranoia, or like you could say like a negative entity or something like that, a negative entity that I know is not real. I know it's a product of people's subconscious mind projecting their worst nightmares, and evidently people's worst nightmares happen to be going to hell because of the religious dogma that says you're going to hell or you're going to heaven type of stuff. So that dogma in the subconscious mind and the fear of going to hell projects demons because they created that, because they have this paranoia of going to hell. And I didn't know that at the time because I was always raised where my grandma was like, demons exist, angels exist. But I kind of believe demons and angels are the same thing. I believe it's like a subconscious projection of what's going on in your subconscious, okay? But you don't have to, have these negative entities, and I didn't know that at the time. So Archangel Michael was working with me in my dreams, and he was building me up, and in my dreams I started having these entities, you could say these entities where it'd be like humans, like regular humans, but they'd be so dense, they'd be so negative, and their eyes would be black. And I remember, like, I was just alone, faced with all of these negative beings, and it was at a mall, and I was like the only one. There was like thousands around me, and I was like a little scared because they were all like looking at me, and they were trying to chase me, and they were trying to like get at me, and it looked like people were killing each other. And then I was outside in the parking lot, and then there was this one being that was like the master being. I don't know if this was like a representation of what Satan is in the Catholic religion, but it was like my subconscious idea of Satan presented to me in my dream, okay, as a being, as a very dark demon, horns, all that kind of stuff. And I stood there and I was like, no. It was like wanting to scare me, and I was like, no. I was like, Archangel Michael is here with me. And he was like, I don't see him. I don't see him anywhere. You are all alone. And very evil, satanic, demonic sort of tone. And I was like, no, he's with me. You can't see him, but I know he's there. And then poof, they all just like blew away. Like, they all were pushed back when I pushed my hands, and they all pushed back. And that happened many times in many dreams, because my spirit guides, particularly Archangel Michael, was helping me to understand my power and understand that these things are not real. It's illusion. It's illusion that they are real. So, and then I started to meet spirit guides that were more of like ETs. Met a lot of ET spirit guides. When I became like 19, I started to receive ET spirit guides, especially the Octorians and the Pleiadians, particularly. And I had a lot of names for them, but mainly they were like these frequencies. Okay, these frequencies. Like, one was the embodiment of the frequency of compassion, the other one was the embodiment of forgiveness, other was the embodiment of strength, one other one was maybe an embodiment of compassion, like self-love, another determination, another assertiveness. So I had all these frequencies that I was working with that, to me, were represented by individual spirit guides that look like humans or ETs. So I used them when I needed to, like, elevate myself in this particular frequency of, like, compassion or forgiveness. Particularly when I was young, when I was 10, I was really working heavy with the frequency of forgiveness for my father, because that was something that really needed to be cleared, and it cleared all in one night. All in one night, when my father came to me as a spirit guide in a dream, and was the frequency of forgiveness. He was anchoring that frequency of forgiveness in his energetic field in my dream, represented to me as a spirit guide. And when I woke up, I completely forgave him. I was like, I feel free. I feel elevated. I don't feel heavy. I don't feel dense. I feel cleansed. I feel like I can move on. I can explore new things now when it comes to my life. I'm not stuck anymore. I'm not in this repetitive, you did this, injustice sort of thing. So, but right now, my perspective on spirit guides is that I don't have names anymore. I don't see, like, beings, like human sort of looking beings. I feel like my spirit guides, they have changed, where I feel like they are like me. I don't know necessarily why this has come about this way, but I feel like it's because my spirit guides are trying to, this energy of the spirit guides are trying to show me that I'm extremely powerful. Okay, that there's more to me than just the me that's in this body. So in order to really understand that concept, I feel like the energy of the spirit guides has transformed to be like versions of me assisting me, which is very interesting. Very interesting. But I feel like all these beings, they can be one. Okay, the vibration of a spirit guide, of a guide of me in my lifetime or in my journey throughout life itself. It can be one being, or it can be like 100 beings. It could be 12 beings. It could be 2 beings. But it's usually just one energy that kind of just, it can pull apart and be many energies. Okay, like forgiveness, compassion, how to work with, patience and grace and strength and gentleness. It can be like all these beings. And then it can be just one. It can be one version of Roja, which has all of the embodiments of the universe, the universal laws. So, just wanted to share my experience of answering the question of when I first discovered my my spirit guides, and my perspective on my spirit guides right now. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye.